Hi, I'm Neil Thompson, VP of Technology at QueryVision. In this video, we show how QueryVision SharePoint Web Parts for IBM Cognos can let you build SharePoint applications that can connect to different Cognos servers, including different versions of Cognos, can use different logon or authentication techniques for different user groups such as Intranet, Extranet, and Intranet users, and how this gives you more options on when and how to update Cognos, including simplifying migration and updates. Unlike other solutions, QueryVision lets each SharePoint app determine its Cognos connectivity by the selection of the authentication type and how it is configured. There are three authentication web parts: challenge for user ID and password, and single sign-on through either the user's SharePoint or Windows account or a specified service account. While our web parts provide a consistent look and feel across different SharePoint and Cognos versions, under the hood they dynamically adapt to differences and optimize the features available. Let's walk through how you use QueryVision Web Parts to build two applications which talk to different IBM Cognos servers using different logon techniques. The first step is to add some content pages to the app by adding, say, our Report Viewer web part to several app pages. The next step is to determine how the web parts will connect to Cognos by adding a SharePoint page for authentication and selecting and adding a QueryVision authentication part. In this case, we have selected the user account single sign-on part. Then we select the IBM Cognos server for the SSO part. And finally, we direct the content page web parts to the authentication page to log on. The result is that when a user hits an application content page and they are not authenticated, a one-time workflow will redirect to the authentication page to log the user on and return. If we were to set up a second app, we can select a different authentication type and a different Cognos server. To demonstrate multi-server support, we're going to show you three scenarios which use different authentication techniques to connect to different Cognos servers. Each scenario consists of a pair of SharePoint pages. The first is a SharePoint Cognos report presentation page, and the second is an authentication page. In each case, the report viewer is configured to redirect to the authentication page if the user is not logged on. Here we are showing the first scenario, which will authenticate to IBM Cognos Analytics 11 via single sign-on. We have paused the application just prior to redirecting, which we will now continue. We are now at the authentication page, which has a single sign-on web part. Normally, you would configure the SSO part to automatically log on and return to the report presentation page. But we have disabled automatic logons so we can manually step through the process. Let's have a look at how the SSO part is configured. Here we can see that we can select from a number of different Cognos servers and that we have selected W12R2 CA111, which is our IBM Cognos Analytics 11 server. So let's exit configuration. And log on. We are now logged on and ready to present a report from IBM Cognos Analytics 11. To help identify which IBM Cognos server we are connected to, we have named a folder in Cognos Content Manager with the version of Cognos, as you can see here. Let's start our second scenario in a second session, which uses single sign-on to connect to IBM Cognos 10.2.2. Again, we have automatic logon disabled so we can see the process. So let's log on. Back on the content page, we can see we are connected to Cognos 10.2.2 and showing a sample report. For our third scenario, we'll start a third session which will authenticate with the user ID and password authentication web part, which is configured for the IBM Cognos Analytics server. So we'll enter credentials, and workflow will return to the third scenario report page, where we will select and run a report. So there you have three scenarios showing a combination of multiple IBM Cognos servers and multiple authentication techniques on a single SharePoint server. To wrap up, unlike other solutions, QueryVision SharePoint Web Parts for IBM Cognos supports SharePoint apps connecting to different Cognos servers, including different Cognos versions. Our authentication options support applications servicing Intranet, Extranet, and Internet users. Multi-server support also provides a base to offer more options on when and how to update Cognos and to simplify migration and updates. For more details, see our videos, articles, and documentation at queryvision.com. Thanks for your time.